welcome back. Imagine living in a building with crumbling walls, a leaking roof, and cockroaches running everywhere, and when you complain, the landlord simply says, "Sorry, I've run out of money." Well, that's what some tenants who live in the 60,000 or so apartments owned by the City of Toronto are hearing. In fact, the city is so far behind with repairs and maintenance, it's estimated that the cost to fix all the problems would be in excess of $300 million. As Victor Malarick discovers in this report, the City of Toronto is fast earning the reputation of being Canada's worst landlord.
These are some of the buildings the people of Toronto own. Run down, disrepaired, abandoned, strewn with garbage. For tenants like Stan Brodzinski, this is hardly home sweet home. Stan is legally blind and lives on a $900 a month disability pension. This subsidized apartment is all he can afford. He shares it with his seeing eye dog, Dolly.
I think the Toronto Housing Authority doesn't really care about any of their tenants.
But Dolly's not his only companion. He also shares his apartment with thousands of cockroaches.
That's where I keep all my stored dry goods.
They are literally everywhere you look. In the kitchen, on the walls, they're even inside his TV.
A little more than even I can handle right now.
Sometimes they show up in the most disturbing places.
I sometimes have a drink sitting here, and the cockroaches, well, they end up in my cup. That's when I notice them.
That's got to be such a terrible feeling inside to know that.
It's scary. It's uncomfortable. It makes a person a little bit ill. They love my microwave. I don't even want to lift it up.
Stan pays $141 a month to the Toronto Community Housing Corporation for this one-bedroom apartment.
Has the Toronto Housing Corporation come in here and said, we're going to help you clean up, we're going to help get rid of the cockroaches?
Nope.
They've never come in and said, how can we help you, Stan?
The last time they did their annual inspection, they came in, they saw the dog, they said, okay, everything's all right, and they walked out.
Stan has put in work orders for repairs and his cockroach problem, but he says those requests have been largely ignored.
You ever get a feeling inside that when you complain, nothing happens?
Many times I've asked them to do maintenance work here, and unless you go through their bureaucratic regulations, you don't get anything. And it's obvious even to a blind person that they ignore people.
Stan isn't alone in his struggle. He's just one of more than 160,000 people trying to survive in Toronto community housing. That's larger than the entire population of Prince Edward Island, living in subsidized apartment buildings, townhomes, and houses scattered throughout the city, many of which are falling apart and infested with bedbugs, cockroaches, and mice. The buildings dot the skyline of Toronto, $6 billion worth of real estate. But look closely, and this is the harsh reality. Gaping holes, questionable wiring, ceilings that are collapsing, and furniture and trash that continues to pile up. In this apartment recently vacated by frustrated tenants, W5 found stacks of maintenance requests ignored. In fact, 250 apartments and 50 houses sit empty, unable to be rented because they are in such disrepair. Connie Harrison, who spends most of her day in bed because of a back injury, invited us to visit her apartment.
A couple of dead ones in there.
She's a breast cancer survivor who barely gets by on a disability pension. Our first stop, the kitchen, where Connie wanted to show us her cupboards.
Oh my God! Holy.
Everywhere we look, cockroaches. She's asked the landlord, Toronto Community Housing, to fumigate, but everything they try fails. The bugs just keep coming back.
What are some of the problems that you've seen in this building, in this apartment?
The lack of maintenance. And every time we go into the management office trying to get something done, We're herded like cattle, treated like cattle.
Connie tries to keep her apartment clean. There is no food in her cupboards for the bugs to live on. And despite her constant cleaning, she can't get rid of the roaches. Outside Connie's building, the garbage is overflowing. Furniture laden with bedbugs has been dumped by desperate tenants.
They should be taking it away very often, but it piles up here and it stinks. Like, this is a breeding ground for rats and vermin. This is not a proper way to manage a building. This is horrible, horrible.
So horrible that a man in a biohazard suit removes garbage from a Toronto housing building next door.
Why do you think they have to wear like they're in a hot zone or something, you know, like it's Ebola or something? They do it because it's filth, it's pure filth. Once you're here, you're tucked away and forgotten.
When you look around your surroundings, what goes through your mind?
I feel like I'm in hell.
Across town, another Toronto community housing building. This one infested with bedbugs. Lillian Carrigan is a 72-year-old grandmother, a pensioner, who spends her days documenting the disrepair. These pictures, which she has sent to the landlord, show how bad things are. Mold on the floor and the ceiling, garbage blocking doorways. 25% of tenants in Toronto community housing buildings are senior citizens, just like Lillian.
Do you have family coming over to visit, or do you tell them, look, I'm just really worried here?
I haven't had family come to visit since there's been bed bugs in here. In matter of fact, my son would like very much for me to get out of this building. Unfortunately, I can't afford that.
She worries for her safety, but mostly she worries about the bugs. She's been canvassing her neighbors to find out how bad the bugs are in the building.
Hi, Marcia. Lillian. I'm doing a pest control survey.
Yes, Lillian.
We're trying to find out about cockroaches, mice, bed bugs, and other vermin.
Despite her best attempts at protecting herself, including pesticide spraying before anyone can enter her apartment, it's still not enough.
Sat down and something bit me. And I jumped up because I knew there was bed bugs in the building, and I had 3 good-sized welts on my upper thigh.
With tenants living in conditions like these, Toronto lawyer Sarah Chartel has started a class action suit.
Now, if you've got $6 billion in asset and you've got a credit line of $250 million, you could mortgage the assets, take the money, fix the building.
She wants the court to order Toronto Housing to make those repairs and bring the buildings up to code within 6 months.
These buildings have turned into slum housing. It's that simple. We tolerate, and the courts tolerate, and our society tolerates conditions in these buildings that if it was a for-profit private sector landlord, we would not tolerate. We are asking the courts to treat TCHC to the same standard that we would treat any private sector landlord. We just want a binding order that by a given definable time, the buildings will be repaired.
For Connie Harrison, who's joined the class action, that day can't come soon enough.
Do you ever lie back at night and just cry?
Yeah, a lot of times I cry a lot, but I don't want to go crazy here. That is my biggest fear, is to go crazy in these buildings. What'll happen to you is you will become evicted, you'll end up in the hospital, and then they'll discharge you out to the street, and that'll be the end of you. You will be dead. Here you're sort of just semi-dead.